Hey guys, welcome back to another What If here. Today we are doing part 2 to What If Naruto was in Anbu. And well, if you want to know what happened in the last part 1, well, you're just gonna have to watch it yourself, as I'm not gonna say what was in it. Though, if you do want to watch it, don't worry, you can go in the description down below, which will take you, the first link in the description down below will be a link to the playlist. To this What Ifs playlist, where you can watch obviously part 1 and this part and any other future part. That'll be part 3, 4, 5, 6. Who knows? Yeah. Anyway. Oh, and also, if you like, meh, I don't care, I'll watch part 1 after I watch this, then at the end of the video there'll be 4 pop-ups. One will be my channel, the channel logo where you can subscribe. Another one is what YouTubers themed you'd like to watch next. One will be the recent upload of on my channel, which will be more or less this, but of course if you're watching this in the future, then there'd probably be a different What If. And then then there'll be a playlist which, would be this What Ifs playlist. Anyway, without delay, let's get into this. So, Hughes would pass and Naruto would be 10. Currently, Naruto would be standing in front of the Hokage. Hiruzen Saotari, the third Hokage. The reason why, is because Kakashi, Yuga, and Yamato, the current members of Team Road, Kakashi being the leader of the Anbu Team Road, as I've just said. They had at least for somewhat you tried doing, like, for the past half year, tried convincing Hiruzen that Naruto, obviously if Naruto wanted to join Anbu, to let him join Anbu, and Hiruzen had pushed back that he's not even a genin. And they'd said they went, so what? Test him yourself and see what he's capable of. And and they'd somewhat continue to argue that point constantly, and so he'd asked Naruto on his 10th birthday, did he want to somewhat join Anbu, as his mum Yuga, or his adopted mother Yuga, and his somewhat big brothers, or who he saw as or the two people he saw as big brother or brothers was Yamato and Kakashi. And he'd said he'd be honoured to, and Hiruzen had decided that, and Naruto said, though, when would I join? And Hiruzen would somewhat say, would think about it, and that, so, if you don't exactly know when, then how about when, like, this year's when the school comes back for this year, for the academy, like, to go on for the next year, or that. When it came back after summer, Hiruzen had shrugged and said, sure then, because it would give him time to just accept that Naruto would be going into Anbu, that Naruto just straight up skipped a genin and then went into Anbu. Though, the second you become a genin, you can apply to go into Anbu. And once you pass certain tests, you can then then you'd become an Anbu member. Anyway, and of course, ever since Naruto had started his somewhat ninja training, they'd somewhat trained him somewhat to be kind of an all-rounder, to be good at not just one aspect. Though everyone knew he was somewhat good in ninjutsu as his reserve, obviously his massive reserves. And well, yeah, they'd somewhat trained him on when he was around 8, when he had turned 8 years old. They'd somewhat had thought, well, maybe it'd be a good time for him to start learning Funjutsu, and well, a year later he became a master of it, learning all what Konoha had on Funjutsu, minus what was in the Senju compound, or Senju Uzumaki compound. But yeah, pretty much like in Konoha's public library, which was their own version from level 1 to level 10, which level 10 for an Uzumaki would be child's play. Literally, a child of the age of around 4 or 5 would be messing about with Funjutsu that Konoha would considered rank 9 or 10 in their books. And yeah, because rank 10 somewhat, or rank 10, or at least kind of had talked about the possibility of space-time, but like the ability to possibly manipulate space-time. But yeah, Naruto couldn't find any more books beyond level 10, so he'd asked them on his, because it had taken him a year to master level 1 to level 10. And Dry's only level 8 in those books, so he's already better than Dryer. And well, yeah, on his 9th birthday, he'd asked his mum if there were anything higher than level 10. And she had said, what, like in the public library? That had nodded, and she'd shook her head. Well, no, though, there is some, though, if you go to the Senju compound, in the Senju, because in the abandoned Senju compound, if you go to the Senju library, there may be Funjutsu there. Now to ask, why would there be Funjutsu there? And she'd explain that, well, yes, she'd obviously remind Naruto that Mito, the first Hokage's wife, was very much an Uzumaki, pure blood, and was a master, or as they somewhat call the female masters of Funjutsu, mistresses of Funjutsu. Pretty much people who can maybe not exactly manipulate space-time itself, but people who were below space-time Funjutsu. Space-time Funjutsu was around level 13 and above, level 13, 14, possibly 15, as they'd stopped around 15, possibly a level 16, which all were about space and space-time. So all about somewhat theory and the possibility of kind of teleportation and, well, yeah. And, well, yeah, with that very same night, Naruto had somewhat snuck in and had, well, obviously, Puma's team was somewhat there to, if alarms went off, which they knew there were, as the amount of time they'd gone in to capture some drunken idiot that had tried walking into the Senju library. Yeah, as of course, these seals would somewhat set off an alarm in the Hokage office. That would obviously tell the Hokage or Anbu that there was someone intruding in the Senju compound library, the Senju library. And yeah, though, to somewhat their surprise, well, more so Kakashi and Yamato surprised, not so much Hyuga, as of course it's the Senju Uzumaki compound, Senju Uzumaki library. Naruto's half Uzumaki, he should be able to walk in there without setting off alarms and that, and that he did. He'd walked in, he'd found that a majority of the somewhat library was Senju. Then he'd he'd found a somewhat kind of barrier that it's had on it Uzumaki, or at least, well, on the wall on top it said like Uzumaki section, and of course it said underneath that you must be an Uzumaki to enter. Naruto and pushed his hand against it and realised his hand wouldn't go through, so he'd bite on his thumb, smeared some blood on it and channel chakra and into his blood into the barrier, which would then somewhat glow before his hand would then pass through, and he'd continue to walk through and would see that while there was Funjutsu and Ninjutsu and also the stuff about his clan history and all of that about his clan. So yeah, throughout the year it had taken him 6 months to learn just level 1 Uzumaki Funjutsu. Well, no, not a year, 6 months. I think I had said 6 months, yeah. Anyway, yeah, 6 months to learn level 1 and around 8 to 9 months to learn level 2. That's why Naruto wanted to wait until past the summer, so he would start learning level 3 in level 3 Funjutsu, Uzumaki Funjutsu. Though that could obviously take him maybe a year, but anyway, yeah. Anyway, back to present, and Hizen had pretty much named Naruto, or gave Naruto his code name, and his code name is Fox, for the 9-tagged fox instilled inside of him. Yeah, Naruto would, well, besides from looking like the somewhat picture you can see on screen, though, yeah. Also, what obviously other Anbu members look like, it'd be dressed exactly like that, though with a somewhat fox-looking mask on. Yeah, and well, Naruto would ask if he could, well, with that, he would tell them all that they are dismissed. They would somewhat, or if you go to leave, then they'd realise Naruto hadn't started moving. He was in quite an eyebrow, and Naruto would ask, could he speak to him privately about something? A private request. He was in quite an eyebrow, but it said sure, then had shooed everyone out, and it then put up a privacy barrier. And Naruto, when someone asked him if he could have a look at the barrier, Hizen would ask why, and Naruto told him that obviously, besides from being required to learn at least some basic Funjutsu, he's taken quite the liking to Funjutsu and has mastered it. Hizen would somewhat just shrug and would nod, not really thinking much of it. Thinking obviously because Dry is a level, say 8, maybe 9. I think he's a level 8. Anyway, in Funjutsu, and well, he'd ask somewhat Dry to somewhat alter the barrier a tiny bit to be able to somewhat ignore, say, Itachi's presence, because Itachi's already now become a missing nin. as he'd already pretty much murdered his clan, leaving Sasuke alive. And yeah, of course, Kakashi, he was somewhat struggling. He was thinking about, obviously at this point, retiring, but had sworn that he'd at least stay on for at least maybe like a couple of months once Naruto's in Anbu, and then after maybe like say 2 to 3 months in Anbu after Naruto joined, to make sure he's comfortable, he would somewhat leave Anbu to become a Jonin sensei. And yeah, anyway, so yeah, Hiruzen didn't really think Naruto would really somewhat see, or if he did see anything really wrong with obviously the barrier, he'd surely tell him before he'd try and alter the barrier. The barrier itself was a level 1 Funjutsu barrier for Uzumaki's. So it was a basic in a sense, as it was only really meant to detect chakra signatures, but it'd been changed around, it had been messed about so much that, well, when Naruto started looking at it, he quickly realised, well, you could see the original Uzumaki kind of somewhat obviously barrier line, well, somewhat thing where obviously what Mito had created to obviously protect the village, and he could see from there obviously it became just a spiral mess, and that the barrier itself was incredibly efficient, but because of all these somewhat adaptations, or at least tried adaptations and all of that, which were taken up much more chakra, it became a mess where, to the point where one day, if this continued, only Naruto himself could run the barrier, which would be incredibly bad. And yeah, he would come back and tell Hiruzen that the barrier is practically a mess, and that at this rate, say by the time if the barrier doesn't get redone, say refreshed, re-updated, that obviously because of all the alterations that have been done to the barrier, it went say from so efficient that a newly minted Genin from Konoha could run the barrier, to where Jonin to, well, yeah, just pretty much say high Jonins or A rank, borderline S rank missing in are the only ones that can somewhat run it for a full day. Naruto would tell Hiruzen that, and Hiruzen would somewhat pale and would ask Naruto if he could possibly somehow at least fix it to make it efficient again. Naruto would go, well, Naruto would tell him that obviously he could, and Hiruzen would ask him how long it would take, and Naruto had told him a week at most, so that would be a week without no barrier for Konoha, though that was no real issue. Barrier was practically not really doing it, just Naruto had told Hiruzen himself that the barrier is practically useless at this point. It wasn't even really doing its job due to how screwed up the barrier was. Hiruzen had asked him what did it mean. It's like, in other words, the original barrier would pretty much allow a Genin to run it, and a somewhat person good at obviously say men watching, say, the barrier would be able to track, say, like a good, say, sensor would be able to connect with the sill and would be able to track every single chakra signature within Konoha. But due to how screwed up the barrier, the Funjutsu barrier is now, well, it was just kind of telling Konoha, hey, there's a strong part, like, hey, I've just measured a like Kage level ninja entering. Who's held at that because the only real person that has ever messed about with the barrier was Dry, and Dry had constantly obviously told Huzen that nothing was really wrong with the barrier and that it was working just perfectly fine. If what Naruto was saying was true, then it seemed like it obviously requests trying to do those changes were somewhat a bad deal, so he told Naruto to go and do it, and he'd given Naruto a scroll to tell the barrier core to obviously to have a break for a week or so, and that Anbu Fox would be completely redoing, if possible if not at least cleaning up the barrier so it should hopefully function like it was originally supposed to. With that, Fox had taken that to the barrier core, and the barrier core remembering how the barrier was meant to work, and they had a sentry nin, and yeah, they somewhat literally thought there was an issue with the sentry ninja, but no, apparently the barrier itself was just straight up garbage now. So they'd nodded after reading the scroll, and they'd said that they'd be back obviously in a week's time. So now they would have that much time to either completely redo either clean up or completely redo and make a somewhat slightly more efficient and much better barrier. And that's what Naruto had started doing. He would somewhat look on and would see that there were mainly somewhat seals to specifically block out certain spikes in chakra. One was, say, if the Hokage spiked his chakra, and one was to stop, say, whoever was whoever was entering with a certain seal, stop obviously the barrier from going off with that and some other stuff, and Naruto just went yep, and just straight up deactivate the barrier. And of course, Hiruzen with someone making an announcement that Hiruzen wouldn't really need to, because the barrier of course would shut down, and Naruto would, a week later, Naruto would have the barrier back up, though the barrier is now a somewhat double layered. First one would just give the person, the sentry nin, saying, the people in control go, hey, there's a chakra signature this large. Say there's a person there is, say, a being with this much chakra, and pretty much just entered it, just entered it. The second one would obviously would be where the sentry nin can obviously track within Konoha, and obviously if they pass that, then for one, sentry nin would be able to sense that chakra, and it would also give somewhat slightly more detail, like affinity, like the person's affinity, and and whatever they could get from reading the person's chakra. Anyway, and since then, Naruto, he was in a told after that week, he was in a somewhat called team Rowan, so Kakashi, of course, the leader, Yugo and Yamato, and they told them that Naruto would be joining their team, as it somewhat only makes sense. They'd somewhat nodded, and Husune told them that would tell them their first mission. And and I know this is a short part, but I just wanted to get this out. I don't know. I somewhat wanted to get this what if out, but I also wanted to be lazy, so here. At least you have something. Anyway, guys, if you have enjoyed this part, tell me in the comments down below. And stay safe, have a good day or night, depending on wherever you're watching this, and good. Bye!